大家好，欢迎收看 FX168 新闻热点。由 FX168 财经集团主办的2022温哥华国际金融峰会将于9月2号到3号在温哥华当趟 JW 万豪酒店隆重举行。峰会旨在打造开放且有影响力的平台，分享丰富的前沿投资资讯，通过甄选加拿大和国际专注于金融领域最前沿的交易技术和信息服务的优质金融机构，为高净值投资者和机构发掘交易以及投资机会，也为行业从业者提供一个良好的互动交流平台。本次活动获得了加拿大本地以及国际知名机构、金融行业专业人士以及投资者们的极大关注。今年以来，随着通胀率持续飙升至数十年高位，美联储和加拿大央行等主要央行纷纷采取激进的加息举措以给通胀降温，但这一举措的副作用是会抑制经济增速。受此影响，美股等全球股市一片哀嚎，纳指等多个股指已经深陷熊市区域。在市场大跌之际，有关经济衰退的担忧与日俱增。在这种形势下，投资者该何去何从呢？为此 ，FX168 董事长兼 CEO 姜泰先生特别专访了 Connor Clark and Lunn Private Capital 副总裁 Daniel Wong 黄厚巽先生。我们一起来看两位专业人士将会擦出怎样的火花呢？
今天非常高兴，我们请到了 Connor Clark and Lunn 金融投资公司的副总裁 Daniel Wong 先生来到我们的直播间跟大家见面。It's a great honor to have you here to be with our readers and audience and to give them to do this interview today here. So would you introduce a little about your company and the service?
Sure, no problem. Thank you for having me here today. So Connor Clark and Lunn is Canada's largest independent and privately held investment firm. And so we offer a broad range of investment strategies from traditional asset classes such as stocks and bonds to alternatives like real estate and infrastructure. And we opened our doors back in 1982. And today we manage over $100 billion on behalf of our clients. And we have offices all across Canada, from Vancouver to Montreal, Chicago, London, England, and most recently in India. And so what makes CC&L unique is that under one roof for our clients, they have access to probably one of the most diversified investment platforms available out there.
Great. 听 Daniel 先生介绍了这个整个他们集团的这个情况之后，大家应该已经会注意到说，原来我们加拿大市场上面有这么大的、这么有名的这样的公司，但是可能我们的华人的这个读者来说的话，原来并没有注意到。可能大家经常去Vancouver downtown，但是也可能没有关注到有这样的一家服务公司在为我们提供服务。那么，我想代表大家来问问 Daniel 王先生 ，CC&L 这家公司，它跟市场上的其他公司的服务有什么样的一些不同呢？ Can you explain more about what's the special your company and your service
Sure.
in this market?
Yeah. So one of the things that we are fiercely proud of is being independent and privately held. And so what that means is that we are not owned by any bank or any insurance company. We have 140 individuals who both own and operate the business, and who are all entrepreneurial in spirit, and who all recognize that our clients' success is our success. And so because we are private, we are able to be incredibly innovative in the way that we manage money, as well as being incredibly responsive to the needs of our clients. And so we can build investment solutions for our clients to help them achieve their success. And being independent also means that we are able to attract investment professionals to come and allow them to do what they do best, which is to manage money. And so that is what we mean by creating conditions for success. We have set up the business in such a way where individuals can do what they do best, what they're most talented at, and working together to help our clients achieve success. And so being independent also means that there's an alignment of interests between our clients and the success of our firm. And so that is probably why I would guess maybe many of your readers today or viewers today may not have heard of Connor, Clark & Lunn. But we have been able to build our business for the past 40 years based on reputation and word of mouth. And that's also something that we're very proud of, that our clients are out there as ambassadors for us and feel very comfortable and proud to tell their friends and their associates to invest with Connor, Clark & Lunn.
Great. 所以正像 Daniel 王先生他提到了一个他们的这个使命，说到的是为成功创造条件。所以我很感兴趣的想来了解一下这个为成功创造条件背后的这个深刻的含义是怎么样子的。So just like you said, you creating conditions for success. So can you elaborate on that and what actions do your company going to do or already doing that for the clients or your potential clients?
Right. So we have a diverse investment platform that covers 13 different asset classes. But really what differentiates our firm is that we offer our clients the opportunity to invest in directly owned alternatives. So that's be it real estate or infrastructure. And so our clients can hold a portfolio of real estate assets or infrastructure assets that is not externally managed by another manager. It's they directly own it. And the reason that they're able to do that is what we do is we go out and we find portfolio managers, partners who have a great, outstanding track record in doing what they do, and we bring them in and we ask them to build a portfolio for our clients in that asset class. And so because our portfolio managers are partners in the business, then we have incredible access to the key decision makers. We have incredible transparency to their investment process, and we are able to work together with them in creating and building portfolios ultimately for our clients' success. And so amongst our competitors, they may not have the in-house expertise to have managers to manage all these different asset classes. Oftentimes what you'll see is they will go outside and have to hire external managers for that. And when that happens, you're going to end up with less transparency, less control, and ultimately more expense. And when it's more expensive or more costly, then that impacts the client's returns. And so that's what makes CC&L unique.
Great. 所以刚刚大家可以听到，在市场上来说的话 ，CC&L 这家公司的话，他们提供的是非常非常专业和有深度的这样的一个服务。虽然 Daniel 已经提到了跟市场上他们的这些竞对的这个比较上面，他们的这个优势，我会想到就是说，在这个市场上面来说的话，有很多很多大大小小这样的公司。那么这个上面，我们作为投资者来说的话，怎么样去选择一个好的这个服务的这个公司？我们是不是应该想来听听这个 Daniel 在这方面的这个看法 ？So how would you see yourself outstanding in the market compared to the competitors, and what advice you would give the investors how they choose a suitable service provider for them in the investment sector?
Yeah. So what the advantage of working with CC&L is that we, by being private and independent, we're able to be creative in what we can offer our clients and how we can help them with their investment strategy. So for example, over 10 years ago, we recognized that it was important for our clients to diversify away from just stocks and bonds. And they needed to diversify into this area called alternative investing, which is very popular and very trendy now, but 10 years ago, it was less popular. And we recognize that, and when COVID happened in March 2020, we saw the benefits and the advantages of that. When the pandemic started, almost overnight, investors instantly realized that, all the capital markets came under pressure. Stocks were down, bonds were down, everything was under pressure. But assets such as real estate and infrastructure assets, they kind of held steady, and they were not as volatile. The example that I like to give is that even during the pandemic, the wind still blew through turbines, the sun still shined on solar panels, and so those assets continue to generate returns for investors even when there was a lot of volatility going on, and because a lot of things were unknown with the pandemic. I would say that is one of the differentiators of CC&L, and how the way our business is set up, and it allows us to be responsive to our clients' needs.
OK， 这些信息对我们是非常有帮助的。那么在过去20多年里面呢 ，FX168我们在全球范围内一直是侧重在为华文的这些投资者提供帮助和服务，帮助他们在世界各地能够寻找到好的这些服务的这个供应商。那么在加拿大，毫无疑问，我们也会碰到这样的问题：我们怎么样来选择一个好的这个服务商？我们168又怎么样来找到这些好的服务商呢？我们也想来听听看，我们今天请到的这个 CC&L 这家服务商，他们有什么能够为我们华文社区的这些投资者来提供服务的。So for the past 20 years, FX16, we focus on to helping the Chinese-speak society globally to help them to find the suitable investment methods for their wealth. We can see here in Canada, we are a multicultural country, and we are proud of that as a Canadian, right? So, what would you see your company do to help these kind of society, the Chinese society, of course, other society as well? So, how you help these society? Because the people in such kind of societies, many of them may not speak English. Yeah, so they are the way for them to reach these very great service.
Right.
So what your company do to help them?
Yeah. So we actually, as a firm, we're actually very focused on diversity, and we work hard to ensure that our firm represents, the makeup of our clients and the communities that we work and serve in. And so definitely language barriers are a challenge, not just for Chinese clients, but for clients from any non-English speaking background. And so, while my own Cantonese is probably only sufficient for ordering food or speaking with family, and that's why we're doing this interview in English today, I have several colleagues who are proficient in Mandarin and Cantonese that I can lean upon and rely upon. But I would say that it's not only just language. I think cultural understanding is also important. We have clients from different backgrounds and from around the world. And so everybody, has a different experience when it comes to investing. And so, for example, I know that investors from Asia tend to have a lot more trust and faith in banks. And that's perfectly understandable, because when you imagine you come to a new country, one of the first things that you do is open a bank account, and so that's where the trust starts building, is when you, because that's your first experience. And so the challenge for myself and my colleagues are to, talk to clients and talk to the investing public about how there are other options out there. Firms like CC&L and some of our other competitors that are outside of banks that also offer a great investment platform and have a very compelling investment options for investors. And so I would say that from our experience, we haven't experienced any challenges in terms of working with clients from different language backgrounds or different cultural backgrounds.
非常棒非常棒。那么其实我们的很多的这个读者和观众来说的话呢，我相信大家都是在投资方面，当然大家的规模有大有小，但是总的来说，我们大部分的这个读者来说，都还是一个所谓的散户投资者。那么其实作为我们散户投资者说的话呢，在市场上去找到合适我们的这些服务供应商，其实是还是会碰到很多的这个困难的，因为有很多的广告，有很多的信息。那么到底怎么样去避免选择了不合适的这些服务供应商，使我们的投资造成损失，或者说我们付出了不必要的这些费用？那这些方面我们也一起来听听看Daniel 王先生他是怎么样给我们建议的。So as a very successful portfolio manager, would you give some advice to the retail investors how to choose a better advisor and stay away from those overcharged advisors or even those fraudulent advisors?
Right. I would say that first and foremost, the easiest way is to make sure that there is an alignment of interest between the investor and the investment advisor. And so one of the first questions I would ask is, how is my investment advisor being compensated for their services. So are they suggesting an investment fund or strategy because it pays them the most commissions or the highest trailers, or are they recommending something that's truly suitable for myself? Or another question is, are they compensated based on the number of transactions that they generate in your client's accounts? And so that is one way to kind of discern, whether there's an alignment of interest between the investor and the advisor. Another way is to see how they are governed professionally. See if they are held to a higher standard of accountability. So at CC&L, we are governed by the Securities Commission. And so we have a higher fiduciary duty to our clients. And it goes beyond just recommending an investment strategy that is suitable. We have a legal obligation to do what's in the best interest of our clients. And so that is just a responsibility that we have. And you'd be surprised that not all financial planners or investment advisors have that same level of duty or care. Another question that I would ask is just, what are the educational requirements that your financial advisor needs in order to be sitting across the desk from you? Being regulated as CC&L is, we have pretty rigorous educational standards, and the global benchmark or the global standard is what's called the Chartered Financial Analyst, or the CFA designation. And so, one question to ask your financial advisor is, well, what requirements did you need in order to have those letters behind your name? Is it, a few months taking a course and a few months of experience, or did you have to complete a rigorous global educational program where you had to take exams and have the requisite experience in order to get that designation? So those are some of the considerations that I would suggest investors think about in order to kind of see who they should be working with.
信息非常非常的丰富啊！对于我们在市场上寻找好的这个投资服务商来说，这相当应该是非常非常有帮助。那么我们想回到现在这个市场来看的话，我们也想来听听看 Daniel 王先生对现在的这个证券市场，我相信大家投资者也会非常非常想听到他在这方面的这些看法。因为从1972年以来，这个今年的上半年，整个标普的这个表现可能是40年来最差的这个表现的这个时间了。那么在现在这个情况下面，我们投资者到底应该怎么样来进行相应的操作，或者说CC&L 这个公司他们的这个他们对他们的投资者来说，他们是采取了一些什么样的策略来应对目前的这个市场呢？ So since the 1970s, this year the S&P are the worst first half of the year. So what your company, the CC&L, suggest your strategies to accommodate these such market panic things?
Yeah, panic. Yeah,
panic
absolutely. I think panic is the perfect term to describe what's been happening so far this year. And I think that, we know that bear markets make even the savviest investors nervous, especially during bear markets, because they're often associated with a lot of uncertainty about the future. But if we took a level-headed look at history, what we'll see, or what we're reminded of, is that these kind of drawdowns that we see this year is normal, perfectly normal and common in terms of investing. So for example, since the 1920s, the S&P 500 have experienced approximately 25 bear markets. And bear markets is defined as being a 20% drawdown from its recent highs. And so each of these bear markets are different, but they're all the result of increased selling due to panic and fear. But each of these bear markets also eventually recovered when that fear and panic subsided. And so, the best thing that we can do for our clients is to remind them of their long-term investment strategy and to discourage panic decision-making. Impulsive decisions such as selling out of the market and going to cash will tend to, impede or jeopardize future returns. And so, because nobody has a crystal ball as to what is going to happen in the future. Nobody can tell when the economy is going to recover or when the recession is going to end. So nobody, I've never met an investor who is able to pick the market bottoms. And so when you impulsively sell during a panic, inevitably you're going to miss the rebound. And as a reminder, rebounds tend to occur before outlook or the economy changes or recover. And so history has shown that a well-considered long-term investment strategy is the best chance to leading to success.
所以这个大家可以从Daniel 王先生的这个回答里面，我们可以看到，其实对于真正的专业的这个投资机构来说，他们是不会赞成在市场里面恐慌式的去抛售的。那么特别像在当下的这个情况下面来说的话，其实在现在的情况下面再去疯狂的抛售，其实已经不是一个好的这个时机了。正如Daniel 王先生所说的，这个你是很难去抓到真正市场真正反弹的那个时候的。所以其实在怎么样能够有好的专业的这个知识，在市场真正触底的那个一刹那之前就能够进行好自己的投资布局，这个是对市场来说是非常重要的。其实在我们168的很多节目里面也一直在提到这样的一个观点并不是说是在跌势里面不断的去抛售是一个好的策略这个今天我们从专业投资的这个角度上面，他也提到了这样的一个观点，所以这对于我们的这个投资应该是非常有帮助的。那么下面呢，我们想从这个角度来看的话呢，我们其实还关心另外一个板块，那就是说科技板块。相信科技板块在过去的很多年里面都帮助我们的这个投资者获得了很大的这个收益，但是在最近的这个半年多时间1年时间里面来说的话呢，科技板块的下跌是非常非常大的。那么对这个板块，我们现在到底是怎么样去看待它呢？ So for the high-tech sector, in the past many years, investors earn a lot from this sector. But in the past 1 year, it's dropped down a lot. So currently, how would we see this sector?
Right. Yeah, so there are certainly many great businesses with proven business models in the technology sector. And, they have high margins, high returns, and operating in areas with high barriers of entry. But there are also many speculative technology companies who are heavily loss-making or relied on cheap credit, and which may not continue, especially in the last couple of years, which may not continue going forward. And so with the first group of the highly profitable technology companies, our view is that most of them are going to be just fine, regardless of the monetary policy or the direction of the economy. Their share price may be under pressure this year, down 15 to 35%. But in our view, over the long, there's nothing in their business that suggests that they will not be a good investment for the long term. And then for the other group, for the second group, where they're more highly speculative technology stocks, we think that they may not bounce back to the pre-COVID levels. So even as the market recovers, these firms may struggle to bounce back to where they were before COVID. So it's important to invest in high quality firms that can ride out or can survive this wave of pandemic, but also they're good long-term investments.
所以可以看到，就是说 CC&L 他们公司对整个高科技行业的这个看法，他们还是比较保守的。那么当然，我们也可以从市场上的一些专家方面呢，也能够听到成长性的价值股。那么在这个高科技行业里面，可能也是投资的机会是逐步去呈现的。那么我相信我们投资者呢，应该可以去多听各种方面这个专家的意见，最后做出自己的这个投资的这个决定。这是我们的建议。Okay, so next it's a very interesting sector. 其实我们下面会来讲一讲这个在这个能源行业的这个情况，这个算是一个在过去1年当中来说非常亮点的一个行业。So for the oil and gas sector, it's got a quite good gains in the past 1 year. So what would you see this sector? Would it still go further or it will change the trend?
Yeah. So because we do expect economic growth to decelerate, and demand for commodities such as oil and gas will reduce from these levels. We talked about the war in the Ukraine, right? And so that certainly put a strain on energy supply. And the lower demand, as well as the increased production from, say, private energy producers, we believe will eventually balance out the supply and demand dynamic, and that commodity prices would go lower from these current levels. And so with the expectation of lower energy prices, and energy stocks, we believe, would likely also go lower from where it is today. And for that reason, as a strategy today, we tend to be underweight energy.
那其实从股市这样看起来的来说的话，其实最近对整个股票市场，或者说整个金融市场影响非常大的来说的话呢，那当然首推肯定是美联储的这个加息的这个问题了。那么我们一起来听听看，Daniel 王先生他对美联储这方面的这个加息方面给市场带来的影响，他是怎么看的 ？So we can see that the U.S. Federal Reserve they already hiked the bench interest rate a lot. So what's your thoughts on this matter?
Right. So definitely the monetary policymakers have been very aggressive in attempts to rein in inflation and make sure that the inflation rate is not persistent at these levels. And so by raising rates, they're effectively restricting economic growth in the attempts of taming the inflation. And what that means for investors is that now they're more concerned about whether the economy is going to tip into a recession. It's not an easy job. Like honestly, like it's not something that I don't envy their job. I don't envy their responsibility, because I think it's almost impossible to get right. To be able to tame inflation without tipping the economy into recession, I think is next to impossible. And so, we do expect economic growth to slow. The risk of recession is rising, but we actually don't believe that will occur in 2022. And so we do expect also that there's going to be a deceleration in the inflationary environment right now. It may settle in at a higher rate than long-term levels, but it will come down from what we're seeing today. And so with the risk of a higher risk of inflation, lower expected consumer demand, we have positioned our clients' portfolios and our strategies to be a bit more conservative and a bit more stable. And we believe that this is the prudent approach, because there is still a lot of uncertainty and a lot of risk out there. The war in the Ukraine, we don't know how that is going to resolve itself. We don't know what the outcome is going to be. We still have lockdowns in China due to the COVID, dealing with COVID, and that impact on the global supply chain. And then, of course, inflation as well. And so all these things are still risks in the areas of our clients' portfolios. And so taking a more conservative approach, taking risk off their strategy, we believe is the more prudent approach.
所以我们可以看到，对于这样大的这些投资机构来说的话，他们在投资方面的这个策略，一般来说的话，他们是相对来说以安全作为首要的这个考量。那么在这样一个复杂的这个市场情况下面来说的话呢，其实这也代表了主流的投资机构，他们在这个市场上面，他们操作的基本的一个策略。当然，我们也可以从不同的这个有激进的，有比较中性的，当然也有保守的这些投资机构。但是我们同样也可以听到，从另外一方面来说的话呢，整个美国经济其实从现在来说的话，我们美联储的这些加息政策，它要去控制整个的这个通胀的这个上升，其实它应该是完全有能力去解决这个问题的。只不过怎么样能够在解决通胀的同时，避免整个经济的这个衰退。那衰退来说的话，是不是真的会发生？这其实也是一个问题。当然有不同的经济学家认为这个衰退可能是稍纵即逝的，因为美联储很容易调整它的这个经济政策。所以从这点上面来说的话，我们在这个悲观的市场上面来说的话呢，我们并不是要真的是完全去悲观。其实有很多的投资机构，他们也在做一些积极的这个布局。那我们可以从市场上更多的去了解，也更多的关注我们 FA168的这个节目当中的专家的各种的意见。那其实 最后我们我们要来谈一谈，就是我们生活的这个加拿大市场，因为我们今天的这个节目，我相信有很多是我们生活在加拿大的这些投资者。那么对于加拿大的联邦来说的话，其实也是一直在进入这个加息周期，那这个对整个市场的这个影响也是不言而喻的。那么我们不知道后市来说的话，加拿大的这个央行是不是会继续跟着美联储的这个加息节奏，还是说它会有什么其他不同的这些操作？我们也想来听听 Daniel 先生对这方面的这个看法。So for the Canadian, because also we are in the Canada market, the inflation also is quite high recently. So the Federal also did a lot about that, like raising the rates. So what would you see in the future or in the near future, the policy?
Right. So we expect, so we're filming this before the meeting on Wednesday, but we expect the Bank of Canada to most likely raise rates on Wednesday by about 75 basis points. And especially after the most recent reports like the business and consumer surveys that they released last week, which showed that businesses believe or forecast that inflation would be about 4.5%, and consumers forecast inflation to be about 5% in the next 2 years. And so both of these forecast levels are higher than what they were back in April. So I think there's a good chance that for the July meeting, the Bank of Canada will raise rates by 75 basis points. But the real question is, what are they going to do in September? So, it's only 2 months from now. Will they have the appetite or the room to continue to raise rates this aggressively? Can the consumer market or the real estate market, or the mortgage market, will they be able to withstand continued rate hikes that are this aggressive? And so right now, the markets are pricing in at about 125 basis points, so 1.25% interest rate raise for the next 2 meetings. But if it's 75 and 75, I would not be surprised either.
所以我们呢，接下去有最后一个问题。华尔街日报最近进行了一场调研，针对经济学家的调研里面呢，显示出对未来经济的衰退的可能性达到了44%。那么在这样的一个情况下面，我们想来听听 Daniel 王先生对这个的看法，以及他们的公司 CC&L 做了一些什么样的行动，或者即将采取一些什么样的行动来保护投资者的这个收益。So the Wall Street Journal, they did a survey to the economists, dramatically shows that the probability of a recession reached 44%. So what's your opinion about this result, and what actions your company did or will do to protect the interest of the clients?
Yeah, so definitely it seems like the markets have shifted their focus from inflation to growth, but the inflation risk remains real. We do expect economic growth to slow, and the risk of a recession continues to rise, but we don't believe that we will see that in 2022. And so, there are certainly still a lot of things that are working against investors today. Equity valuations have lowered, but they're not cheap. They're still not cheap. Continued downside risk to the lockdowns in China will have impact on the global supply chain. And then, of course, the unfortunate war in the Ukraine and how that would eventually resolve itself is unknown. And so even without a recession, the risk of negative earnings is still very high, just given the expectations that we have. And so in Canada, we remain defensively positioned. So we are invested in high quality names. We're moving to names that are valued, have a good value, and are stable. And even banks, which is typically an anchor for a lot of Canadian investors, they are not immune to the economic slowdown as well. And so in the U.S., the growth sectors like technology and consumer discretionary will remain under pressure. And so for our clients in a balanced strategy, we have definitely lowered the risk in their portfolios and their strategies. And we would be what we would call at benchmark weight. So in terms of stocks and bonds, it would be at or near benchmark with a slight tilt towards Canadian equities, a little underweight in global equities. And so, while we're not expecting a recession this year, there is definitely the risks of an economic slowdown. And so for our clients, what we do for them is we diversify their portfolio, diversify their investment strategy to include asset classes that are less volatile, such as real estate and infrastructure, alternative asset classes, so that overall their investment strategy can withstand the daily market volatility that we see.
Great. 所以从这个 Daniel 王先生他的这个介绍来说，我们可以看到他们的这个公司的这个产品的投资也是非常的这个稳健，而且它是一个多元化的这个组合。那相信他们会给投资者带来持续的、稳定的、好的这个收益。所以我想今天的这个节目之后的话，应该会有很多的这个投资者会对 CC&L 公司的这个投资有兴趣，因为他们是有这么好的这个稳健的这个投资的这个产品。那么我想今天的话，应该大家也希望能够在这里有一个联系的方式，能够给到大家能够方便大家来联系。So would you please give your contact information for the retailers and the audience? Most of them may have interest to contact you.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to meet with anybody and just meet with you and review your investment strategy and answer any questions that you may have. My contact information is below, and feel free to email me or call me anytime, and also as well as our corporate website as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.